Intimacy is supposed to be a place of safety. For most of us, it is where walls come down, where trust is built, and where love speaks without words. It is meant to be the moment when you no longer perform, but simply belong. Yet with a narcissist, that sacred space is turned into a battlefield. What you thought was connection is turned into calculation. What you believed was love is twisted into control. And the truth is, you might not even see it at first. Because narcissists are masters of illusion. They can make you believe you are the most desired person in the world. They can flood you with passion, with charm, with promises that feel unshakable. But beneath the surface, something very different is happening. Their mind is not filled with love. It is filled with strategy. It is not about your heart. It is about their power. Think about it. For a moment that should be about two people becoming one, they are only thinking about themselves. How they look, how they seem, what they can get, what they can control. And if you've ever walked away from a moment of intimacy with them feeling more empty than full, more confused than cherished, then you already know what I am talking about. You felt it. You just could not name it. Let's be honest. It is terrifying to realize that the one place you should feel safe has been turned into a weapon against you. But you need to hear this. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are not broken for feeling the way you do. This is not love failing you. This is manipulation trying to define you. And the good news is, you do not have to stay in that place. Because awareness is power. When you begin to see the game for what it is, the spell starts to break. When you understand that intimacy with a narcissist is not about you, it is about their need for control, you stop blaming yourself. You stop wondering what is wrong with you, and you start seeing the truth about them. And the moment you see the truth, you can choose differently. In this journey, we are going to uncover what really goes on in a narcissist's mind during intimacy. Not to scare you, but to free you. To give you the clarity you need to reclaim your worth and to remind you that intimacy should never be a battlefield. It should be a sanctuary. And if you are ready, by the end of this, you will never look at that mask the same way again. To understand the narcissist in moments of intimacy, you have to let go of the idea that they see this experience the way you do. Because you approach intimacy with the hope of connection, while they approach it with the hunger for control. For you, it is an act of love. For them, it is a performance, a tool, a weapon, a stage where they must never lose. At the core of the narcissist's mind is a fear they will never admit. The fear of being unseen, the fear of being ordinary, the fear that without someone to validate them, they are nothing. So even in the most private moments, when you would expect authenticity, they are still wearing a mask. They cannot remove it, because without it, they have no idea who they are. You see, intimacy for them is not about two people sharing trust. It is about one person feeding an ego that is never satisfied. Every touch, every glance, every move is measured against one question. Am I winning? Am I proving that I am powerful, attractive, irreplaceable? It is never about what you feel. It is always about how they appear and how much control they can keep. This is why so many people describe intimacy with a narcissist as confusing. At first, it can feel overwhelming, even intoxicating. They know how to perform passion. They know how to create the illusion of closeness. But if you look deeper, you notice it is not about you. Their focus is not on your heart or your comfort. It is on their reflection in your eyes. If they sense admiration, they come alive. If they sense boredom or detachment, they grow cold or even cruel. Think about the difference. For most people, intimacy is a chance to put down their defenses and show their true self. For a narcissist, it is a chance to perfect their performance. They are not losing themselves in the moment. They are evaluating, controlling, strategizing. And while you may be searching for connection, they are calculating how to secure more dominance over you. This is the twisted paradox. They long for admiration, but they fear real closeness, because closeness requires vulnerability, and vulnerability threatens their illusion. So they create a version of intimacy that looks real but is hollow at the core. They want your body but not your soul. They want your submission but not your trust. They want the feeling of victory, not the reality of love. And here is the truth you need to hold on to. Their behavior is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their emptiness. You are not unlovable because they cannot love you. You are not undeserving because they withhold kindness. Their inability to connect does not make you broken. It exposes how broken they already are. When you begin to understand this mindset, you stop asking the wrong questions. You stop wondering, what did I do wrong? Why am I not enough? Instead, you begin to see the real question. Why am I letting someone else's emptiness decide my value? That shift is the beginning of freedom. Because once you stop believing their illusion, you take back the one thing they fear most, your clarity. So remember this. With a narcissist, intimacy is never what it seems. It is not connection. It is control. But now that you see it, you can choose differently. You can decide that your body and your heart are not stages for someone else's performance. You can decide that your worth will never again be defined by the illusions of someone too afraid to face their own truth. If you've ever been with a narcissist, you know how powerful the beginning feels. It's not just attraction. It's an overwhelming rush that convinces you you've finally found something rare, something real. They look into your eyes like you are the only person in the world. They speak words that sound like they've been waiting their whole life to say them to you. They touch you in a way that makes you believe they see you, truly see you. And in those moments, you don't just feel wanted, you feel chosen. But here is the hard truth. What feels like love is often a carefully constructed illusion. Narcissists are masters of what we call love bombing. They flood you with affection, with passion, with attention so intense it takes your breath away. But this intensity is not about connection, it's about control. It's about hooking you so deeply that you can no longer tell the difference between genuine love and manufactured desire. Think about it. Real love grows. It deepens over time. It builds trust, layer by layer. But with a narcissist, the connection feels instant, almost too good to be true, and that's because it is. They create a fast, burning flame, not to keep you warm, but to blind you from seeing what lies beneath. And when the glow begins to fade, when the performance no longer brings them the admiration they crave, they pull back, leaving you wondering what you did wrong, when in reality, it was never about you at all. This is why so many survivors of narcissistic relationships say, "It was amazing in the beginning, and then everything changed." Because the beginning was never meant to last. It was bait. A stage set to convince you that what you were experiencing was the deepest love you'd ever known. But the moment they felt they had secured you, the act shifted. The warmth turned cold. The passion became mechanical, and you were left holding on to a memory that was never real. You need to understand this so you can stop blaming yourself. You are not crazy for believing in the illusion. You are not foolish for falling for the intensity. You are human. You were responding to what felt like love, what looked like love, what sounded like love. But now you know, the illusion is not a reflection of your weakness. It is proof of how carefully they play their game. And once you see the difference between real love and the illusion of it, you are no longer powerless. Because the moment you can name the performance, you can choose to step off the stage. And that, more than anything, is how you begin to take your heart back. 10 disturbing truths they hide. 1. Ownership. You belong to me. The moment a narcissist becomes intimate with you, something shifts in their mind. What feels like a moment of mutual closeness to you becomes, in their world, a contract of ownership. They do not see intimacy as a gift of trust. They see it as proof of conquest. In their twisted logic, your vulnerability is not something to protect. It is something to claim. They register your body, your presence, even your affection as territory they now control. This is why so many narcissists lose interest once they believe they've secured you, because for them, the thrill was never in love. It was in the chase, in the victory, in proving they could possess you. And once the chase is over, you are treated not as a partner, but as an object sitting on their shelf of victories. This is not about your worth. It is about their emptiness. Because only someone terrified of their own insignificance would try to fill it by owning another human being. 2. Performance. I must be the star. For a narcissist, intimacy is not about connection. It is about performance. While you are searching for closeness, they are asking themselves, how am I doing? How do I look? Am I winning this moment? They are not lost in the warmth of your embrace. They are lost in comparison against their past lovers, against what they believe you expect, against the version of themselves they want you to applaud. If they sense admiration in your eyes, they feel powerful. If they sense disappointment, even imagined, their energy turns cold, sometimes cruel. They will criticize you, find flaws, invent reasons why the moment is failing, and then blame you for them. Because in their mind, intimacy is not a partnership. It is a stage, and they cannot bear the thought of being anything less than the star of the show. But here is the truth. Love is not theater. Connection is not competition. And the moment you realize they are performing instead of loving, you stop questioning your worth and start recognizing their act. 3. Selective generosity. You should be grateful. One of the most disturbing lies narcissists tell themselves is that intimacy with them is a gift. They convince themselves and try to convince you that their passion is rare, that their attention is a privilege you should treasure. In reality, many of them know deep down they are unfaithful, incapable of real connection, and emotionally absent. But instead of facing that truth, they reframe it. They call their affection generosity. They act as if being with you is a favor they have chosen to bestow, and when you don't respond with endless gratitude, they punish you. Sometimes with criticism, sometimes with withdrawal, sometimes by seeking validation elsewhere and blaming you for it. This is not love. This is grandiosity disguised as intimacy. Because intimacy should never be about one person demanding appreciation for doing what love does freely. The truth is, you never needed to earn their passion. They needed to earn your trust. And when they weaponize intimacy to make you feel indebted, you can know for certain it was never about love. It was about power. 4. Objectification. You exist to serve me. For a narcissist, intimacy is never a shared experience. It is a transaction. You are not a partner to be cherished. You are an object to be used. They may fake passion, fake tenderness, even fake attentiveness, but deep down, they believe your role is to serve them. Your desires, your comfort, your needs, those are irrelevant unless they align with their script. The moment you voice what you want, the moment you ask for reciprocity, their mask slips. They call you demanding, selfish, or ungrateful. Because in their world, you were never supposed to be an equal. You were meant to lie still and let them feel powerful. This is not love. This is dehumanization. And if you have ever felt invisible in their presence, it's because they never intended to see you in the first place. 5. Control. I dictate your pleasure. Narcissists are not content with you enjoying intimacy. They need you to enjoy it on their terms. They want to dictate your reactions, your emotions, even the rhythm of your breathing. If you resist, if you seem distant, if you do not perform the way they expect, they see it as rebellion, and rebellion must be punished. Sometimes they force intimacy after an argument, not because they want closeness, but because they want control. They study your face, not with tenderness, but with satisfaction, because your compliance proves their dominance. This is not desire. This is domination, disguised as passion. And the most painful part is, when it's over, they leave you feeling used, confused, and unseen. while they rest as if nothing happened. 6. Calculation. This moment will serve me later. With a narcissist, even intimacy is strategy. If they seem attentive, if they go out of their way to please you, it is rarely genuine. It is a calculated investment. They store every detail, every moment, every vulnerability, so they can use it later. When you set boundaries, they will remind you of how much they have done. When you try to stand up for yourself, they will throw the night back in your face. After everything I gave you, this is how you treat me. They withhold intimacy to punish, then weaponize it to guilt you into compliance. What should have been a memory of closeness becomes a bargaining chip. And in their hands, love's most sacred expression becomes one of their most dangerous tools. Chapter: Replaceability. I can replace you anytime. Perhaps one of the coldest truths is this: in their mind, you are not unique. While you believe intimacy is building a bond, they are already comparing you to others past, present, or imagined. Sometimes in the middle of being with you, they are picturing someone else. Maybe a past lover, maybe a future conquest, maybe a fantasy. Because for them, exclusivity feels like weakness. Dependence feels like risk. They need to believe they always have other options. And that belief keeps them from ever being truly present with you. This is why they devalue you so easily, why they discard you without hesitation. To them, you are replaceable. But here's the truth they cannot face. You are irreplaceable. They will cycle through people endlessly, but they will never find the love they pretend to give because they are too afraid to truly give it. 8. Weaponization. I will use this against you. For most people, intimacy is a safe space. For a narcissist, it's a data mine. Every time you open up, every time you share a preference, a fear, a past wound, they are quietly taking notes. Not because they want to know you, but because they want to control you. Later, when the time is right, they will weaponize that vulnerability. You liked something once? They'll shame you for it. You shared your trauma? They'll use it to guilt trip you. They will twist your honesty and throw it back at you with cruel precision. It's not that they forgot what you said, it's that they remembered it too well, waiting for the moment it could serve their agenda. This is not intimacy. This is psychological warfare. You thought you were safe, but to them you were just giving them ammunition. And that realization hurts more than words can say. But it also gives you clarity. What they used to control you can now be what sets you free, because when you stop feeding their access, you take back your power. 9. Emotional void. This does not make us closer. You may believe that intimacy brings people closer, and in healthy relationships it does. But with a narcissist, you walk away feeling emptier, not fuller. That's because they're not really there. You're giving your body, your trust, your affection, but they're giving a performance. No matter how passionate or tender it may seem, there's a hollowness behind their eyes. And you feel it. The disconnection, the emotional coldness, the sense that you're doing this together, but somehow you're completely alone. They may say the right things. They may move in all the right ways. But their heart is locked behind a wall you will never reach. And the hardest part? You think it's your fault. You wonder what you did to make them pull away. You start blaming your body, your mood, your worth. But the truth is, their absence was never about you. It was always about them. They were never trying to build something real. They were only trying to hold your attention long enough to keep control. 10. Detachment. I have to get away. Now, when it's over, when the act is done, the performance complete, they shut down, they roll over, they walk away, they pick a fight. You want closeness, they want distance. You want connection, they want silence. Why? Because to them, the moment has served its purpose. You were the means, never the destination. And once they've gotten what they wanted, they no longer see the need to pretend. What was supposed to bring you closer now becomes a point of rejection. And you're left wondering, was any of it real? It felt real. It looked real. But now, In the coldness of their withdrawal, you begin to see the truth. You weren't held, you were used. And it's devastating. But it's also revealing. Because once you see that the intimacy was never mutual, you stop begging for affection from someone who has no intention of giving it. You stop waiting. You stop blaming. And you start walking toward the kind of love that doesn't disappear when the lights go out. The most painful part of being intimate with a narcissist is not the act itself, it's the aftermath. It's what it does to your mind, to your heart, to your sense of self. Because when intimacy is turned into a tool of control, you walk away not only feeling used, you walk away questioning your own worth. At first, you may not even notice the shift. You tell yourself the coldness is temporary, the criticism is just a phase, the distance is something you can fix. You try harder, you give more. You silence your needs, hoping they'll respond with the love you crave. But the more you give, the emptier you feel. The more you try to reach them, the further they pull away. And instead of realizing their absence is about them, you begin to believe it's about you. You start to wonder if you're too demanding, too sensitive, too flawed. You question your body, your value, your ability to satisfy them. You replay their words in your head, the little jabs, the subtle criticisms, until they echo louder than your own voice. And slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to doubt the very things that once made you strong. That is the hidden cost of intimacy with a narcissist. It's not just physical, it's emotional theft. And the trauma bond makes it worse. Because even as you feel the pain, you long for the high of their affection. You cling to the memory of those early days, those intoxicating moments when they made you feel chosen. You keep hoping if you just love them enough, they'll return to that version of themselves. But here's the truth, they won't. That person never really existed. It was a performance designed to bind you, not to love you. This cycle leaves you trapped between longing and despair. You blame yourself for the distance, and then you beg them to close it. You get crumbs of affection, and you treat them like a feast. And all the while, your sense of self-worth is being chipped away. You are not just losing intimacy, you are losing yourself. But let me remind you of something powerful. The fact that you feel this pain proves you are capable of real love. The fact that you notice the emptiness proves your soul still longs for something true. Their inability to connect does not make you unworthy. It exposes their emptiness, not yours. So yes, the psychological impact is deep, but it is not permanent. Because the same mind that was trained to doubt can be trained to believe again. The same heart that was wounded can heal, and the same soul that felt used can rise stronger. When you begin to see the pattern for what it is, when you name it, when you stop blaming yourself, you start to break free. And in that freedom, you find not only healing, you find yourself again. One of the most powerful steps you can take is learning to recognize the signs before the damage runs too deep. Because narcissists thrive in the shadows of confusion. But when you bring awareness, their illusion begins to collapse. At first, it looks like passion. They sweep you off your feet with intensity that feels almost too good to be true. And that's the first sign it usually is. Real connection grows gradually. It builds trust slowly. But with a narcissist, the flame is fast and furious. They don't want to give you time to think, to notice the cracks in the performance. They want you hooked on the high before you can see the cost. Watch how they handle your needs. In the beginning, they may act attentive, but notice if the focus always shifts back to them. Do your desires matter, or are they dismissed when inconvenient? Do they listen with empathy, or do they listen only to respond? True intimacy makes space for both people. With a narcissist, it always funnels back to one. Pay attention to how you feel afterward. Do you leave the moment feeling cherished or confused? Do you feel safe or unsettled? Healthy intimacy leaves you lighter, warmer, more connected. Narcissistic intimacy leaves you questioning yourself, doubting your worth, wondering what you did wrong. That is not love. That is manipulation at work. And notice the patterns of blame. When something feels off, Do they take responsibility, or do they turn it back on you? A narcissist rarely admits fault. Instead, they twist reality until you are the one apologizing for their actions. That is not accountability. That is control. The earlier you recognize these patterns, the sooner you can step back and protect your heart. You do not need to wait until you are deeply entangled to trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. And when you honor that feeling, you begin to cut the strings they are trying to tie around your life. Remember, awareness is not paranoia. It is protection. The more clearly you see, the less power their illusion has. And once you recognize the game, you can choose not to play. Healing after intimacy with a narcissist is not about erasing the past. It's about reclaiming what was always yours. Your worth, your clarity, your peace. Because while they may have stolen your confidence, they cannot steal your ability to rise again. The first step is recognizing that their behavior was never a reflection of your value. They could not love you the way you deserved, not because you were lacking, but because they were unwilling to give. Their emptiness is not your burden to carry. So, stop asking what you could have done differently. Start asking how you will treat yourself differently now. Next, rebuild your boundaries. Not as walls to keep the world out, but as gates that you alone control. Boundaries are not selfish. They are sacred. They remind you that your body, your mind, and your soul are not stages for anyone else's performance. Every no you speak becomes a yes to your healing. Surround yourself with truth-tellers, friends, mentors, or professionals who see you clearly and remind you of the strength you've forgotten. Because healing rarely happens in isolation. You need voices that lift you when your own voice feels too weak to believe in itself. And most of all, reclaim your silence. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of peace. The kind where you no longer feel the need to explain, defend, or prove yourself to someone who was never listening. In that quiet, you discover a strength deeper than any performance, a strength that was within you all along. This journey is not easy, but it is possible. And as you take each step, you begin to see that the real victory is not exposing the narcissist. It is refusing to let them define you. Because you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become after it. And now, it's time to choose freedom. The greatest lesson you can carry from this journey is simple. Intimacy is never meant to be a battlefield. It is meant to be a sanctuary where trust and love grow. With a narcissist, what looked like love was only illusion. What felt like passion was only performance. But once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And that clarity is the beginning of your freedom. You are not defined by the way they treated you. You are not broken because they withheld love. Their inability to connect was never proof that you were unworthy. It was proof that they were too afraid to face their own emptiness. And now you know. The power is not in getting them to admit the truth. The power is in you choosing to live in truth without them. The moment you stop waiting for their approval, you take back what was always yours. The moment you decide that your peace matters more than their performance, you step out of their shadow and into the light of your own worth. So walk forward with courage. Hold your head high. Let the silence of your detachment speak louder than any argument ever could. And remember, freedom is not given by the one who hurt you. It is claimed by the one who finally sees through the illusion. That one is you.